Colony is a crystallization of the mythology of the series.
My name is Zachary Conan, and if you enjoy content like this, please consider subscribing to this channel and throw the video a like as well if you enjoyed it. So today we are talking about episodes 16 and 17 of the second season. It's a two-parter, which the X-Files were the kings at two-part episodes. These ones are called Colony and Endgame. And gun to my head, these are some of my favorite episodes of the X-Files, and they're kind of underrated when it comes to the episodes that are championed by the fans. These don't seem to get too much play, but I think they're incredibly important, and they're really well done. I very, very much so enjoy these episodes, which are basically about it's about the colonization. It's about human and alien hybridization of identical clones, and one of these clones pretends to be Mulder's sister in order to get him to help her, to protect her and her clone sisters, basically, from being killed by this bounty hunter who is of the same race. But these attempts at hybridization, at colonization, weren't sanctioned by the rest of their species. So he's come down to Earth to exterminate them. To exterminate all traces of these experiments, which were done at abortion clinics so they can take advantage of the fetal tissue until they found and developed, which they did, a way to properly make alien and human hybrids. And of course, the Syndicate, their entire goal is colonization of Earth. I'm here with Craig. And Craig, just what did you think of the episode just on an entertainment level? Like, did you like it?
Oh yeah, it had me captivated the entire time. Like I even found myself so caught up in it that for a moment there, if you even remember, I was actually talking to the TV. I never do that.
I almost
never do that. There was a moment where he was about to not go into the abortion clinic, and I was like, dude, you should probably still go in there to check it out. And he ended up doing it. But I never do that when I watch movies. Like, I always make fun of people for doing that at horror movies and stuff. But, yeah, I was just really into it.
There were so many twists and turns in this episode, and it's really neat because if you asked Chris Carter, he would call this a crystallization of the mythology up to that point in time, kind of putting it into high gear, like actually establishing a mythos around the X-Files, which would come to be known as the X-Files mythology, which is what we kind of explore on this channel. And the cool part about it was David Duchovny's idea to do these episodes. He has co-writing credits on Colony, and it was his idea to reintroduce the sister in a way that was duplicitous, but also in a way that was poetic and symbolic at the same time. And there are a lot of cool moments in both of these episodes. What did you think of the bounty hunter? Because he reappears, I think, until like season 8. Like, he's sprinkled in throughout each season sparingly. It's not overdone. Maybe one episode a season or something like that. And I think he's a pretty formidable kind of villain. Certainly has a look about him, a vibe about him. I like his high-tech ice pick that he uses to dispatch his targets. What did you think of the bounty hunter, who I immediately recognized from Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
He really gave me like a Terminator vibe.
Yeah, actually.
That's pretty much like the perfect example for how I felt immediately about him. And then the fact that he was taking like other people's identity made for some interesting plot points. I think they were written as twists. I didn't really see them as twists because I kind of saw them coming from a mile away, but it was still well done.
Yeah, the way that they handled it, though. Like, I remember you were able to pick up, like, obviously he's going to turn into Mulder and approach Scully. Mm-hmm. But I think that the way that they handled it was phenomenal, because there was no instance where where maybe for like 1 second Scully thought that this was the real Mulder, and they turned it on its head by, like, she immediately knows. And I thought it was just really a lot of fun and really awkward to watch. To watch Fox Mulder with this hidden, the impersonation with this hidden superhuman strength, just beating the shit out of Dana Scully and holding her up against the wall was kind of funny to see, because you never think that you're going to be able to see that, and I thought that was a really cool X-Files moment. And I love that he was a shapeshifter, a changeling as well. I think it added a lot to it. I mean, certainly that would be an impossible story without it. I thought it was expertly plotted, just an amazing structure. Things kind of fell organically into place, even though there were MacGuffins, even though there were like matters of extreme conveniences. It really felt incredibly organic, and that's because Chris Carter, Frank Spotnitz, and even David Duchovny as a writer.
Yeah,
they know how to write.
They really pulled like the magician's trick of like watching the hand,
sleight of hand. Yeah,
yeah. They had you paying attention so much to one thing that you kind of just almost let the rest of it fall into the back of your mind and don't pay too much attention to it. I'm sure if you went back and watched this episode for the second time, you would see all these little things.
Oh, this is like my probably fifth time watching these two episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you see the little things happening, but I'm still just astonished and floored by the capabilities of the writers to keep all these different gears going in like kind of like a hidden direction, like every single scene is pushing the story forward, even if you don't realize that it is at that time.
Yeah, like it was getting kind of silly. That
the amount of phone calls.
Yeah, they kept calling each other and playing phone tag, and you're like, what is the point of this? And then at the end, she's on the phone with Mulder,
and that's like a really good payoff to that motif that recurs, or
because they did it so many times.
So many times,
goofy.
But at the very end, you're like, oh, that's why this is actually really perfectly plotted, because it wouldn't have had the same effect if it hadn't been done repetitiously like that. There are other great moments too in Endgame. I always love when they let Skinner be heroic every once in a while, when they allow him to have some valor. Skinner is like an amateur boxer in his off time, and I loved him and X brawling in the elevator. And it's one of the few times, not one of the few times, Skinner does get to be heroic, but certainly not a whole lot. He's often basically cuckolded by the cigarette-smoking man and his ability to actually be a man of integrity. But when he does express some sort of integrity, it's pretty awesome, and that was a really, really cool moment, What did he say? I used unofficial channels. Like, he even had that cool line.
That was pretty great.
That's really great to see.
Callback. That was a cool callback.
Which is going to be funny because the next episodes we're going to cover on here are Anasazi, The Blessing Way, and Paperclip, in which Krychek and like 3 goons beat the absolute shit out of him in a stairwell. So it'll be the opposite of what we saw tonight. But these episodes were really great. And I even liked, like, you got a Terminator vibe. I think all great science fiction is basically a modge podge of everything that's come before it, just like kind of slammed together, because you got a xenomorph alien vibe from the idea that, like, yeah, you kill him in the base of the skull. That's not how you kill aliens, but the whole blood aspect of the blood is toxic to human beings, and it's this green, smoky shit. It's not acid blood like it was in the Alien films, but it does unleash. It is fatal to human beings because it releases a retrovirus, which essentially amounts to the characteristics of the disease is that it thickens your blood until it curdles, which I love that that's how Scully described it, like curdling like milk. And the only thing that can corrode the contagion is cold temperature. So, and see, that's the MacGuffin, and that's like the beautiful, perfect convenience. But it's the brilliant plotting, because you're not thinking like, oh, then it's just mighty convenient and great that Mulder got contaminated with the virus in the fucking Arctic. Yeah. Like, that's mighty convenient, but you don't think about it then, because the scene you just watched is so powerful. That's one of my favorite scenes in X-Files history and lore. A top 3 favorite scene. Second, probably only to the scene in The Red and the Black where Krychek actually finally he has a gun to Mulder's head, and instead of shooting him, he kneels down and kisses him. Like that's the best scene in X-Files lore. But the second best scene, it takes place on the submarine, on the ship in the Arctic, and Mulder is just getting thrashed around, the absolute ever living hell beaten out of him by the bounty hunter, and he's asking the same question over and over again: where is my sister, where is my sister? And he's asked, like, is this question worth dying for? Which we find out, yes, it most absolutely is worth dying for Mulder. And then I love the line of, she's alive, can you die now? Which is so perfectly done, because he could die, like, happily after that. In fact, the last lines of the show are something akin to, I didn't find what I was looking for, but I found, like, something I thought I lost, which was the faith to keep on looking. Confirmation that he's not searching for a ghost, that his sister is actually alive, and that he's, Mulder was on a carousel of misinformation these 2 episodes, thinking that his sister had come back, only to find out these are more of these colonizing clone alien species. It was pretty phenomenal in that respect.
I loved how so unwilling he was at first to believe her, and then once he finally does, he realizes that he was wrong.
Absolutely, because he wants to believe so bad. But Duchovny is such a good actor that there were several parts, and Mark Snow is very good at music. We very much so enjoy the music, so there were several times where he would look at his sister and you would hear ominous music in the background. And I thought it was a bit of clever foreshadowing to how kind of secretive his father was, how duplicitous his father was, how kind of morally complicated his father was, that there is no smoking man in these episodes, but the first time we see his father, he's smoking a cigarette in the dark on his porch. And I don't think his father ever acts like he believes that is the daughter, because he knows better, as we find out later. And he didn't even talk to her. I remember the clone saying, like, oh, your father couldn't even find the words to talk to me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I remember when Mulder had to tell him that he lost her when she fell into the lake, into the river, and died, when they were trying to, negotiate a hostage situation. When he was telling his father that he had lost his sister again, the father corrects himself when he's like, and your sister left you, Samantha left you this. So, like, I think it's really well written in the idea that, like, you don't realize it when you're watching it, but the father absolutely knows that is not the sister.
Yeah, that actually is well written, because I didn't even realize that. I thought he was just doing that as a way of, like, he couldn't get those words out, so he had to just say Samantha because that was easier.
Absolutely. It comes off as, like, a method of depersonalization in a traumatic event, but absolutely not. Especially when you take into consideration the first part of the episode where he doesn't speak to her at all. But then once again, that could be, you could easily write that off to, he doesn't know how to handle this. Yep. She's been missing for 22 years. He does not know how to handle this. It was incredibly well written. And I glossed over the music for a second, but the music really makes a lot of these 2 episodes in particular. I think Snow actually went kind of above and beyond for these 2 episodes. Very good mood setting, very good atmospheric music. What did you think of the music?
Well, I pointed out the music like 3 times while we were watching it. It was really good. It made me, outside of the show itself, it made me very nostalgic for those days where I was young playing Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. It made me feel very similar, like something was just waiting around the corner.
It's that same kind of sci-fi horror aesthetic musically. And
yeah. And I love that very specific music, because the music itself isn't trying to scare you. It's trying to unsettle you so that you can be scared.
Absolutely.
So this show isn't actually trying to scare you, though, so the whole time you're just unsettled because the show wants you to feel unsure, just as the characters are. And I think that's got to be one of my favorite things about X-Files is that I think that's why so many people have that poster. Well, maybe not everybody.
I would love that poster. Funny thing is,
The-
they don't sell licensed versions of the posters. You can only buy bootleg versions of it, which sucks.
But like the great thing about that poster is it's the entirety of the show's vibe. It's like, I want to believe. The show gives you no clear-cut evidence of anything, but it always hints at it, and it makes you want to believe, and that's got to be the best thing about the show.
Absolutely. The show's about 3 very specific themes: belief, trust, and the truth. And I want to believe, trust no one, and the truth is out there are part of our cultural ethos now. And I absolutely agree with you. These shows are kind of an antidote to boring, simple life. These shows... XFiles transports you to a place where life is just a little bit more interesting than we all think it is. And I really like that. And I also really like that I'm a terrible note taker when I'm watching these things. I just type nonsense in here or just unhelpful things. My last note, though, is Gillian Anderson is a goddess. Too good for this world. Because that was going to be a good topic of conversation. Oh, but man, she's a remarkable beauty and an incredibly good actor in this show too, always acting as the anchor of reasoning, as evidenced by the ending monologue where she says, like, it was science that saved Mulder. It was science that allowed us to have the capabilities to cure him of this retrovirus. And I cannot believe in the paranormal and the extraterrestrial because I need to believe in like this world of order, that there is an order to this world kind of idea, which is very interesting. You have any other thoughts on this episode, Craig?
I feel like I did, but now that
I put you on the spot.
Yeah. What was it? So, I love how, even with the answers that they do give you, that, kind of like, okay, so like, it's kind of like they are hanging something in front of you, and then they just slowly start to pull it away and put something else in front of it. But the thing that they put in front of it is just as unbelievable, which is fantastic, because they talk about how the Russian science, and then the source of that information was unreliable itself. The guy who gave you all that information was...
the guy who was killing all of them.
Yes. So he's unreliable, but yet we're sitting there, and I'm sure until you really think about, oh wait, that guy was the one who gave us that information, you see that as a plausible explanation.
Absolutely you do.
As well as the aliens. So it's like you have these two theories, and neither of them seem solid enough to stand your ground on. And it feels like there's a third option, but you don't even know what that third option is.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
And the third option is the truth, is what makes sense of all. The best X-Files episodes leaves you with more questions than answers. And this one most certainly does. And also the best X-Files episodes are failures on account of our heroes, Scully and Mulder.
Yeah.
Once again, just like the Dwayne Barry episode that we covered last time, this is not a success story.
No.
Like in the Dwayne Barry episode, Dwayne is killed by Krychek, and fucking Scully is abducted. You know? And in this episode...
she was abducted again.
She was abducted again. She had to play the damsel twice, sadly, and that's not going to be the last time she plays the damsel either. That trope does fall easily into this mythos. But... Mulder fails at everything. These women are like, we need you to protect this one. She's the most important one. And your mind's like, oh, okay, it'll be about protecting this one. That lasts a whole 2 seconds until he's like punched out by the bounty hunter, and everyone, the place is on fire, and they're all missing and presumed dead. Like, good job, Mulder. Also, good job at like getting the other one killed on the bridge. Like, that wasn't very successful. And then I don't even know what you were really doing on that submarine, Mulder. You were looking for answers. You don't even know what you were doing there. But you got the shit kicked out of you and got a retrovirus. But the most important part is that he knows it for a fact that his sister's alive.
And that's all that matters to him.
So there's still a twinkle of success in that story. And I find that absolutely fascinating. Yeah, Mulder just fails so much and has to cry in front of his dad, who, like, is just visibly like, ugh, what a terrible son I have. Like,
God.
it's just not good being Fox this time around. Oh, man. The X-Files are wonderful. X-Files are wonderful because, like I said just now, the very best ones leave you with more questions than answers. And I think that's the point and the beauty of the X-Files. You know, like, we could cover a Star Trek or something like that where everything's, like, pretty much contained, and it's all about moral conundrums and quandaries. But you cover an X-Files episode, and it's not about being entertained, it's about being intrigued, it's about being engrossed. It's about Chris Carter's setting out a line, and he's fishing for you, you know? And very well. And I like that you brought up the tricks of a magician, because these episodes, you can study an episode of the X-Files if you want to learn how to do sleight of hand within, like, science fiction, within something extremely contained within a genre that doesn't seem to have much creative wiggle room. Just watch an episode of the X-Files and you'll learn how to just write a masterpiece. But I want to thank you guys for watching this episode, or this video about the episodes Colony and Endgame. Mm-hmm. And we'll be back with more X-Files videos. Sorry this one took a little longer than anticipated, but, you know, sometimes waiting is good. Once again, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it around if you think it's relevant to wherever you want to share it to. And this is Zachary Conan, and I'm here with my friend Craig. I'm Cranley over at Twitch, right?
Yeah. He's likely going to have a link to my Twitter. My Twitter will have all my information for all that kind of stuff. It'll probably just be easiest to go through those channels.
Those unofficial channels.
Those unofficial channels. But yeah, if you're into watching people play video games on Twitch and being entertained, then
definitely give them a look. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, trust no one.